Hey, welcome everyone to our Ask Me Anything session from Roadblocks to Results in 2025. This is January, and we know that a lot of teams are going through their annual planning. We know a lot of individuals are planning their professional development goals for 2025. And so we wanted to use this as an opportunity to give you the chance to ask questions from some of our community leaders, MVPs, Mark Adair, who is our Automation Anywhere program lead. Any questions about success in running automation programs as we go into 2025? So this is designed to be a very interactive, chat-led session. So please be active in the chats. I've got some poll questions that we're going to be asking of people. So we'll get people involved that way. But I'd like to start with doing a brief introduction to our panel. And I've got three people joining me today. First off, Stephen and Philip, and then Mark. And I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves, a little bit of background about what they do, and then I'm going to ask each of them to give their top 2 automation program wins for 2024. And while they're doing that, I'd love to have anyone else who's in the chat share some of your top program wins from this last year as well. So let's start with Stephen. Stephen, please go ahead and introduce yourself and share your 2 biggest wins for 2024.
Sure. So my name is Stephen Hamerka. I can't say the company I work for reasons, but I'm one of the Automation Center of Excellence leads at my company. I am a primary on promotion and engagement. I also lead a citizen developer program that we're getting off the ground. Super enthusiastic about Pathfinder program and doing bot games and just being part of the community. Kind of a little bit of an intro. I guess recent wins would be there was a platform that had to get a cutover to a different platform. And it was just a lot of data entry, but it was a lot of complex and dynamic page layouts and button locations. To make a long story short, it was a really good win and allowed the project to have a cutover to a different platform. Milliseconds mattered in that, and I pretty much made a bot do 30 hours of work that would have taken a human, 2 different humans, 15 days to do nonstop. So pretty cool, pretty fancy. Oodles and oodles of JavaScript with AA in the mix. I guess another one would be another AI agent, which is basically taking a file repository and exposing it to people through a chat interface and summarizing it and giving them the source location of that data. And it allows for a lot of competitive market intelligence and a lot of different forms of ROI.
Very cool. Awesome. Great wins for 2024. Philip, if you can introduce yourself and share some of your biggest wins for 2024.
Sure thing. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are. Name is Philip Corolla. I am I'd like to say automation consultant. So it is beyond just RPA. I do RPA. I've done some bot development. Prior to being in the Automation Anywhere community, I have a long history of working in document automation, workflow automation, forms automation. I like to think in document automation is where we had the original Gen AI, where we had systems that would learn documents. And this goes back, without dating myself too much, I'll say more than 10 years. Presently, I consult on RPA and Automation Anywhere for a waste management company and also for a startup that consults for municipalities, small municipalities. both of those are unique in its way. You get to see big, small, you get to see different types of automation, and being agnostic is a big advantage. In terms of recent wins, Stephen, when you mentioned chatbots, it just struck me, I think of this as a big win because it's not so much the numbers. So we just, long story short again, there was a chatbot we were building for one of our internal teams, and throughout we are trying to get it to respond fast enough. It was mainly for inquiries, and we just couldn't cut it to under 10 seconds. It would take a little more than 10 seconds. And we said, okay, anyway, it's working. Let's show the demo. And the first thing they said is, oh, look how fast it is. And that's when we realized that, if they had to get the same information themselves, they have to go through 2 different systems. They have to say, okay, are you in this region? I have to go here. Are you in that region? You have to go there. Are you looking for something before 2020? Oh, that's another system. This would look all these places at the same time. So it was a feel-good big win. Beyond that, document automation, there are a lot of document summarization projects that we have on the go, and that's something I'm excited for this year.
Very cool. Great to have you, Philip. Mark, go ahead and introduce yourself, and I want to hear your 2 biggest wins for 2024 as well.
Awesome. Greetings, everyone. Mark Godair. I've been with Automation Anywhere around 6 years, and the last few leading our internal AI and automation program. 2024 was an awesome year. It was busy, that's for sure, but I guess in all the right directions. Couple things. We just surpassed 40 agentic solutions in production, which was really, really exciting. That was in 2024. And I think what's been really, really exciting has been lots of good discussions with customers that has been inspiring. I'm a little groggy. We were on the line with a customer last night at 1:30 a.m. My local time. And but again, the discussion, 20 minutes into the discussion, the room's engaged, and really everyone's kind of eyes are being open to the potential for transformation using this kind of technology. So that's really, really got us jazzed. I think another thing that was kind of a highlight was we launched a program. We're probably still branding the program a little bit. I'm going to call it Agents for Everyone, but the idea is we want to take different types of agents to help every team be more productive. So we kind of launched that this year, and then we're really taking that across the company over the next year. And that's also been really, really exciting. Just hearing kind of the interesting use cases that people come up with, and just kind of putting agents to work. So just a couple of highlights, but it's been a wonderful year and pretty excited about 2025. Very
cool. I want to start today's session with a poll, and I'm going to ask this question of the gentleman on the panel, as well as everyone who's in the chat here. What is your top automation priority for 2025? So, Stephen, I'm going to start with you, put you on the spot here. We've got a couple answers in this poll, but what are you viewing as one of your top goals when it comes to automation this year?
Top goal, first and foremost, is pretty much to get more top-down buy-in of the program and to really just pour gasoline on the fire. Just more and more and more promotion and engagement pretty much at all times, and then just doing a better job at selling the value of our team and our different developers and all the ROI that we deliver.
Okay, very cool. Philip, what about you?
What I would really like, and this is not just this year, is if we can automate the automation. So, as much as we've really cut down the time it takes for us to go from conception to a working model, it is still some time before people begin to forget about what they asked before other priorities come in. And that's where if you can build it once and reuse it, it's as certain as, we have a vision and here it is. And that's really what I want to see. In a couple of places that I worked at, we're seeing that sort of formulate where different people, different departments, different customers have similar requirements. Can we do it once? Can we template it and just cookie cutter for each customer? So that's something I'm looking forward to.
Very cool. I love that about the reusability and really looking forward to how do we build automations that can build other automations and solve other problems. So that's really cool. Mark, tell me a little bit about your objective or your big goal for this year.
Well, we have a few, but one of the big ones, kind of like related to, I'll call it end user adoption, but it's that one of, ideally we want everyone in our workforce actually getting the value of these agents. It's kind of like no one left behind. And that's a challenge, right? Because we got to communicate the value. We've got to obviously make the optimize the experience, make it compelling. So it's not that we're forcing technology on anyone, but they actually are demanding and requesting it. So I think that's one of our biggest ones. We'll be tracking specifically, percentage of our workforce that are actively using agents. That'd be one of our big metrics this year.
I like that. So adoption is big for Mark and his team this year.
Yes,
for everyone who's in our chat and joining us, what's your top automation priority for 2025? The poll looks like it just finally went up there. So scaling existing automation solutions, implementing AI capabilities or some of the agentic capabilities that you've learned about this week, building out a SIT dev program, improving value measurement, automating document workflows, something else. I want to hear about it in the chat. I think the goal that I've heard most commonly is for people to start to take some of those first steps into agentic automation and getting started with that transition from we've been very RPA IT centric to starting to be thinking more strategic, more aligned to the adoption of AI and agentic process automation. So super excited about that. And that's been a lot of the feedback I've seen so far. So I know that everyone who is on our panel here and in our chat, you're all at various stages of your AI-powered automation journey. And given your progress so far, what's one piece of advice you wish that someone had given you before starting your journey with AI-powered automation? And I'm gonna put Mark on the spot here first to give Stephen and Philip a little bit of time to think through that.
Thanks
Mark,
for that.
anything that you wish someone had told you 6 months, a year ago that would have really helped accelerate your journey?
That's a great question. Something that I wish somebody would have told me. I don't know if this is a great answer, but this is an area where we learned as we were going and kind of improved the way that we delivered. I think I kind of wish somebody had told me that the automation and AI arms can be, you can kind of co-design and co-develop them. And that might seem obvious, but when we first started this journey, in my head, AI was kind of an independent module that we needed to fully flesh out and optimize and test, and then think about, okay, now we've got the brain, and now we're going to add the arms and legs to it. We don't do that anymore, and I kind of wish we started that way from the beginning. I wish we kind of looked at it holistically and said, what's the agent need to look like, and then if there's multiple resources focused on different pieces of it, have at it, and come back together later. That's how we're operating now, and the end-to-end cycle time for our agentic solutions is much better. Maybe we were just kind of testing the water, but I wish we'd done that from the very beginning.
I like that. Well, I mean, it's a valuable lesson learned along the way, and it led you to the design and methodology that you followed today. Philip,
Yep.
I'm going to put you on the spot next. What advice do you wish you had gotten 6 months, a year ago on this adoption of agentic or AI automation?
Okay, so I'm going to take myself back a little further than that, maybe 2 years back when we started the RPA program for one of the companies I consult for. It's something new. I was the person that brought it in. You're on the spot, just like today, to deliver on it. Everybody's looking at the schedule. Everybody's looking at are you getting it out on time? And we get a little too focused on that without thinking of are you delivering on value, more on delivering on schedule. Now, when I look back, I'm like, you know what? Maybe it didn't have to be perfect. What's more important is you get it in the hands of the users first, because in that time that you're delivering the program, all you're doing is slideware, all you're doing is showing metrics. If I look back, I would think, you know what, even if it's a rough cut, give something in the hands of the users, let them play with it. That's when you get the real feedback from people who are going to use it. It's okay if it's a little buggy initially. That's something that I would say if I had to redo it, that's everybody wants to have their hands on the keyboard. That is your real validation.
Very cool. I like that. Stephen, what about you? What's a piece of advice you wish you had gotten 6 months, a year ago?
I was trying to think of something AI on topic and stuff, and I couldn't really think of anything terribly much because I actually spend probably somewhere between like 1 and 4 hours a day on average consuming AI related news and content. But I try to stay on like the bleeding edge of awareness just so I can know what's out there in the market and what I have in my tool belt and how to use it when I need it. But if I was going to say something, I would say I wish I had known as early as humanly possible AA's integration with Protecto, pretty much in all forms for data masking, because I think it's one of arguably the biggest differentiators that AA has. A lot of people aren't super good in the governance aspects of protecting PAI when you're using LLMs, whether that's via an abstraction or directly. So I'm looking forward to the continued growth of Protecto inside of AA, wherever that may lead.
Very cool. So that's all around the data masking and the ability to not just mask data and protect sensitive data, but also log a lot of data and be able to see that kind of traceability in your control room of what was the prompt and what was the response that came back from the model, so you can keep track of that. I think the other big thing that I look at as a key differentiator of why you would implement this in Automation Anywhere is that built-in human-in-the-loop capability, which is really important for being able to start to introduce agentic solutions and build trust so that your organization and the people who are normally doing these processes can be working at the start to hold AI accountable and to make sure that we're validating all of those responses. Stephen, I'm going to throw this next question back to you immediately, which is, how are you thinking about skill development for your team as you move toward more AI-powered solutions? So for yourself, I know you said you're consuming 1 to 4 hours a day. That's quite a bit. But how are you turning that into action? And then what are you doing for your team to get everyone else skilled up to be able to deliver on this agentic vision?
Yeah, so, I mean, honestly, AA kind of makes it pretty easy, arguably, because you already have really good documentation. Automation Anywhere University is a nice on-ramp for you. You did the document automation masterclass, training camp, and you've got, the AI agent variant one just around the corner in a few months. Quick plug.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much I tend to just point people towards, a guided experience through AAU and documentation. So I pretty much just say like, here's the curriculum for you based off of, your roles and responsibilities, and, hit me up if you need me kind of thing. And then you can do office hours and just have different avenues of getting engagement, whether that be like a Teams chat or some other group chat or submitting a request. Yeah, I mean, I pretty much just lean on you guys to do all the heavy lifting.
Great. Philip, talk to me about how you've been keeping up with skill development for yourself and the team in the midst of rapidly changing AI architecture and capabilities.
Right. So my approach has been, if you start with a blank slate, nobody's going to start at all. So you want to give something that works, even if it's a POC. And there are always folks that will take that and link it to a problem. That is how you multiply your chances of finding the right solution. So if it is agentic AI, you have a bot that can, let's say, read emails, respond to it. Maybe it won't send, it'll save it as draft. Show how it works and show it to an audience of like-minded people, of folks. I like to say, every company has these firefighters who know a lot within the company, but there are only so few of them. Show it to a bunch of those folks, and they will be able to relate to it. And a small percentage of those folks will be willing to learn the skills to take it to the next level, to use it to their advantage.
Very cool.
Right? And that scales very well too, because one person cannot do everything. Give something that works, a model like your Lego bricks to folks, and people will learn it.
That's great. Mark, with delivering 40 agentic solutions already in production, talk to me about some of the keys for keeping your team skilled up to date with the most current capabilities and delivering on these agentic solutions.
Yeah, again, it's a great question. I think because we're customer zero, we probably have it's like it comes with the job in terms of our own platform. We every new platform release, we get to fully experience it, not just test it, but use it and provide feedback and everything early before it becomes general availability. So that kind of helps us on in terms of our own platform's capability. But kind of like Stephen and Philip were talking about, there's this whole other, the overall kind of AI ecosystem that's out there, all the different vendors and models and things like that. To be honest, I think it's a challenge. The one thing I would say is, this is also kind of a bit of encouragement, hopefully wisdom that we provide to a lot of folks, is a lot of the capabilities of models that we were using a year ago can still drive awesome use cases today. So I think it could be a bit of a mistake to try and become overly infatuated with the latest and greatest revision of every model, try to keep up with that. Instead of, there's a whole bunch of amazing capabilities there already. How can I put it to work, if that makes sense? I think that's constantly a balancing act for sure. But that's been our own experience, if that helps.
I like that. Yeah, I think one of the ways that I think about this is you can either go broad or you can go deep, but
Right.
you won't be really effective doing both. And you can either get really excited about every single new tool that becomes available and downloading it and trying it out, or you can take a few tools that you're going to really commit to learning very well, whether that's a model or some kind of tool that works on top of a model. And I think that, for me, has been the most effective way to really make use of a lot of these generative capabilities, digging in deep on certain capabilities as opposed to trying to broadly learn everything about every single new application that comes out. Mark, one other question I wanted to ask you is, as you think about your team, we've talked about this concept of a competency matrix before. Talk to me about that. Explain what that is and how that's developed as you continue to build out agentic solutions and think about your team developing the skill sets that are needed to deliver on those solutions?
Sure. So the competency matrix, in a former life, I was in a procurement organization, and that's where someone introduced me to the concept. I'd never really seen it before, but the idea at a high level is every job role has certain competencies associated with it. So these are, competencies according to the kind of the dictionary definition. It's not exactly the same as skills or experience. All that stuff is related, but it's things you need to be able to do to a certain level of quality or a certain acceptance level. And so if you looked at any traditional role within a center of excellence, whether it's a developer, solution architect, or a QA expert, what have you, each one of them you could come up with a little inventory of competencies that job role, whoever's in that job role, needs to have at a certain level in order to be effective. I think the point here is as we drove towards agentic process automation, there were some changes to that. Lots of examples. I mean, one that we could talk about would be, things around being able to properly define and fine tune prompts. You just mentioned one, Micah, around how about things like AI vendor and model selection. How do you even know if a use case comes in? How do you even know if you're open, as we are as a company, to all these different vendors and models? How do you know what's the right one for the job? Also, when you're looking at a process, how do you know what's the right, what's the optimal role for AI to play when you look at it? These are all the things that kind of poke at potentially different competencies. And so what we've tried to do is look across all of our different roles and say, what does that matrix look like now? How has it changed from what it did previously? And then obviously where there are competency gaps. A competency gap could be, we expect a certain person in a certain role to have a level 5 of this competency, however we define that. They're currently at a level 2. How do we bridge the gap there? Is it that there's some additional Pathfinder training that has to happen, some external training? How do we get them there? And the idea is, if you've got ideally a fully competent workforce to do what you've asked them to do, obviously it comes out in terms of the outcomes that you're able to deliver. So this is something this is absolutely a work in progress for us. We've made some progress on it, but we're continuing to look at it.
Nice. Mark, I have a little quip about competencies. So I am the,
Sure.
I wouldn't say I am the, but I have the title of automation guru. I'm in this meeting, and the meeting's going on. At the end of it, project manager sends us a whole summary of this is what happened, and I was like, oh, did a great job. You did it, like you summarized this whole thing. Like you really went into the details. I was not expecting that person to get into the details and get all the bits and pieces documented. And then she is like, oh, you gullible you, I got AI to do it. So that's where you have to think, you don't have to be a technical expert. It is, I sort of think of it like we went with mobile. It is consumer driven first. Everybody is using AI, whether you know it or not. And that's where you can look for the competencies. You don't have to be certified, right?
Yeah, that's great. And I think another key thing here to consider as an automation program leader is I'm creating a career development path for the people who are on my team so that they have the ability to expand their skill set, learn new skills. As an automation program leader, I'm also checking the box for myself because I'm identifying my vision says this is where we want to go. My competency framework says this is where we have gaps. So by addressing those gaps, we can get to where our vision says we want to go. So I think it's selfishly great for an automation leader and an automation program, but it's also good for the individuals who have a career path, need to develop on skills so that they can move into a larger role as well. One of the key things that I always hear about for automation program leaders is, how do I get buy-in, right? How do I get stakeholders to get excited about what I get excited about? How do I get stakeholders to really understand my vision and really get behind where I want to go? And I want to hear from our panel here on some of the keys or the tips that they have used for really getting stakeholder buy-in. And I'm going to start with Stephen on this. Stephen, what are some of your tips for getting stakeholder buy-in?
So the question implies that you already know who the stakeholders are. So I'll kind of give you a little bit of a bonus and say how you find that out, and maybe some sprinkling of some other stuff. So when you're trying to identify stakeholders and pockets that you want to pursue for automation inside of a company, promotion and engagement stuff I love, so I can go deep on this if anyone wants. But finding the watering holes, or like the front doors to different, departments, or I don't know, different communication channels, is a really good way to try to find like those stakeholders, and to just network. So if you can communicate through, those watering holes or front doors, it's a good way to get engagement and hopefully get those stakeholders to the table. And I guess once you have the stakeholders to the table, I mean, it comes down to just like knowing your audience and like what matters to them, and how you're going to engage them. Like, are you going to try to pursue, a small group of SMEs, or are you going to try to go to a wider audience amongst the stakeholders? If you go small, you can, spend more time delivering, your ROI and your impact and everything that you offer. But if you go big, you got to be like more concise, and it may be more hard to, get that buy-in. I guess like one tip I would say is, the more focused you can be in the pitch and what matters to them, the better. Don't just throw the kitchen sink at them. So, if you're trying to sell them on, Copilot for business users and AI agents and document automation, the message might get lost in the shuffle. So the more that you can speak directly towards, what matters to them, like the better.
Great tips. Philip, I'd love to hear your tips on the best ways to get that stakeholder buy-in.
So I've seen success in getting excitement from areas that don't get excitement. So, everybody wants to do the best for the customer, wants to have that exceptional customer service. That is usually where everybody's focus is. But there are always areas that don't get love. So there'll be things like, let's say, compliance and audit, where nobody may be asking anything, but they will have some real pain points. The good thing about that is, it's something that they want to do away with. It's a problem that they don't want to have. They are more likely to work with you to solve that problem, right? So that's one thing I've seen. Once you have that working model, it's very easy to show it, demo it to other areas of the business, which may be bigger returns, bigger value, but now you have a working solution that you got the help of your business to help build. That's something I've seen that works very well. Likewise, when looking for customers too, everybody's probably in bigger cities. I've seen with one of the clients I work with, they go specifically to rural areas. Nobody visits them. And they are always very open to new solutions, because there is this one IT guy, and the IT guy cannot do everything, right? And they are very open to getting automations in place.
I like that. So find your niche, find where you can really be effective. Mark, I want to hear your tips on this. I know that you're coming at this from maybe a couple angles. First, you work at an automation company, so there's that. But second, I know that you've kind of seen this from a PS perspective previously as well.
Yeah, I first of all, agree. I love everything Stephen and Philip just shared, and that's awesome. I think my approach on this has changed, and in a good direction. I think it's my thinking on it has simplified over time. And this is what I mean by that. More and more these days, Again, just like Stephen talked about, finding the right channels and watering holes and things like that. But then at the end of the day, a lot of this stuff boils down to me to, what's their problem or an objective that they've been assigned to make happen. Empathize, understanding and empathizing with it, and we can help. And then I think a lot of the buy-in stuff fades into the background. So for example, we're setting OKRs right now. As of this minute, we're setting OKRs for next year. I got a meeting with one of our senior finance leaders, and that's the agenda of the meeting. What business KPIs are you on the hook to drive? And if I say I can help you move the needle on that, and the encouraging thing is I haven't seen many of those that we can't help with. The partnership kind of is almost imminent at that point. They just have to believe then that you can help, and you end up with like a shared objective, right? Which is very different than it's like if you build it, they will come. I've built some agent, please use it. No. They're pulling it because it's actually helping solve a problem that they've gotten or objective that's been assigned to them. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, I like that. I think you've all said something very similar in that knowing your audience is really, really important. If I just 100%. Go to a new department and I say, hey, look, we built 15 bots in the last 12 months, they're going to say, cool, what does that have to do with me, right? So it's really important to understand what are their metrics, what are the things that matter for them, what are their objectives, and how can you help them to address those? Because we're all being asked to do more and deliver more without necessarily extending our budgets. And so automation, and specifically agentic process automation, is something that can really help in that area. One other thing that I've seen really effective with kind of engaging stakeholders and getting people excited about your program and working with you is around POCs, right? You build this cool POC, you build this demo, you show that to them, you show that you understand their vision, you understand what their objectives are. I want to hear about some of the cool demos or POCs that you guys are frequently using to kind of show off what your program's capable of and what you've been working on. Stephen, I'm going to put you on the spot again to go first on this one, but talk to me about some of the cool POCs or demos that you're using that people are like really wowed by and that they're impressed with kind of where your vision's at for some of these things.
Sure. So for POCs and showing off, it's really good if you can have like a central. So I'm just gonna speak from the perspective of like a COE lead. So it's really good if you have somewhere where it's a SharePoint, a microsite, whatever it may be, and it sells people on all of your capabilities and your technologies and all that good stuff. So somewhere in a place like that, it's really good to have like a repository of demos to showcase the different capabilities. So when the time comes and you're engaging with someone, or it's time for like a POC, you can just be like, here's like a 5-minute video showcasing like what I'm going to do. And then you can walk them through it and what that would look like for them once like a POC is executed. So I don't know. Well, I can't even remember what the question was.
Just about, yeah. I mean, so you have basically a library of demos and POCs to get people excited about it and to show the art of the possible.
Yeah.
Cool. Philip, any specific POCs or demos that have really been impactful for people to show your vision for where you want this program to go?
Yes. So I've always found RPA itself is probably the best POC and demo because you're showing something that emulates a human. You log in, open a browser, log into your system. Bonus points if it's a homegrown application because you most likely have no APIs, you have nothing built in, there are no connectors available. It's somebody developed it in a summer program once, and there is no expectation that you can automate that, and then you show this demo where you open the browser just like a human, log in and click there, copy paste there. That usually is convincing in itself that you don't have to do anything beyond that, right? That I've seen. As much as RPA may now be the most efficient way of doing something, that the playback of how it works is enough to convince enough people that this will work.
Mark, what about you? What POCs, what demos? You've had to sell this agentic process automation internally, right? This vision for what can be done. So talk to me about what you've used to get people excited.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just in general, and we in the chat we kind of touched on this. Philip had some comments there, and I think someone asked a question about it as well. But I think anything involving AI, there's always this this trust piece that I don't think can be underestimated. It really is important. People have the common questions. And one of them, of course, is the output going to be what's needed here? Is the output going to be of the right quality and things like that? So I think a lot of these agentic solutions lend themselves well to a little POC, just saying, with your own corporate data and with this model and with some basic prompting. Here's how AI can help here. Here's the kind of answers it's giving to the questions or what have you. Because I find that especially if people haven't firsthand experienced it, it's kind of like seeing is believing. If they see, oh my goodness, we probably all on this panel had that experience one day, that we looked at the results of what AI provided and said, yeah, like that is a reasonable answer. Then I think you've got a good foundation to deliver the rest of whatever that solution is. So I think we follow that approach fairly frequently, where we try and do something at least to crack the nut of can AI address this domain at the right level of quality or accuracy? Can it provide whatever it is, reasonable responses? Can it, in our context, we've got some use cases around resolving IT tickets. Can it give a good answer to that IT question or that IT request? It's a customer support ticket. Can it give a good answer to the customer? Once you show kind of the AI can do it, then yeah, we're going to build a whole agentic process automation that's going to kind of embed that and build around it to deliver the end-to-end process.
I like that. And bonus that it's connected to the last topic we talked about, which was skill development, right? So yes. How can I have someone who needs to develop in a certain area build this POC, build some familiarity with this tool yes. or this capability, and enable us to have that demo or that POC to show off? We've got learning yes. going on. We've got evangelism going on. So I like that. I want to take one of the questions we have from the chat here. We're in year 4 of our RPA journey, but have been very cautious with AI development. This currently makes the transition to APA extremely slow for us. For anyone on the panel, did you experience something similar to this? And if so, what activities or events helped to accelerate that transition? So beyond identification of potential RPA plus AI opportunities. I will let the panelists respond to that or provide some insight. I don't want to, Philip, I'll go with you. You came off mute, so.
All right. So one thing we've seen is even before we identified the first opportunity, this was maybe 1-2 years back when people were using AI at the workplace, and there was this general concern that whatever you're using it for, it's going to go back to train the model and it's going to be out in the internet. So if I use ChatGPT to, let's say, find out what I should price my service for, there's a possibility that this is going to go out on the internet and somebody's going to search for it, or your pricing is public, right? So early on, we got caution from legal counsel saying if you're using anything with AI, you have to let us know and it has to be approved. And this is, completely new to a bunch of developers who get this email. So what I would say, if you have to transition or begin to use APAs, you want to do that homework upfront. You want to see that whatever platform you pick, it is not going to publish that to the internet. It is only one way. You're training a model that is for you exclusively if you're working in an enterprise environment. That way, when you do make your pitch, when you make the case, this can be part of your presentation to say, by the way, these 4 checkboxes we've already factored in. And that way, the sponsor or stakeholder doesn't have to ask that question, and you're not left there trying to say, okay, I'll get back to you. Right? They do that homework up front. That really helps.
That's great. Yeah, I like that. Working with AI governance is really important, especially as you get started. Mark, I'm going to let you chime in on this as well. What helped as you got started to ease the minds of concerned employees or leaders?
Right. So my perspective is that from day one, there were always two kind of big topics here. The first one was what kind of we just alluded to a little bit ago, which is can I trust the output? Am I going to get output that's reasonable based on this use case? And then the other one to me that is always there is my data safe? So my opinion is that if you can give a solid answer to both of those, to me, kind of major concerns with anyone wanting to use these solutions, if you can give a solid answer, then a lot of this, which I would consider kind of change management, I think a lot of it, again, fades into the background. On the protecting your data, private infrastructure, private models, what we do with this model is not going to be, go off to the AI vendor. If we've safeguarded any kind of data that we're using in a RAG solution, for example, it's not that our corporate, our corporate documents and things like that are going to float off in different directions. So basically demonstrating that that's locked down, the data is safe. We talked about prompt masking. And then the other side of it is, don't worry about it. We've look at this. It's got a human in the loop. Nothing's ever going to be used in blah 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 context unless you use it. And that gives people the other side of it, which is the warm and fuzzy feeling that I'm going to be able to check it before it gets used. It's kind of like that crawl, walk, run approach. And then I think that really helps, because again, a lot of these I think are common challenges, and it's kind of change management 101 in a sense. You've got to you have to kind of alleviate, not just ignore, but alleviate those common fears. And then I think it's a smoother journey.
Stephen, thoughts on this?
It was hyperlinks.
Say that again. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Hyperlinks in the chat. I think it'll help you.
Oh.
So there's like data processing agreements that Automation Anywhere has, and they have really good FAQ on generative AI data security. So 2 super helpful links that may or may not be hard to find when you're going through AA docs. Highly recommend reading it. Pretty much, yeah, information security, totally understand the perspective, super important. Pretty much the thing that's going to answer all their questions and give them the warm fuzzy is if you can communicate to them data flow. All they want to know is where the data is coming from, how it's being used, where it's going. Is it staying inside of your network? Is it staying outside of your network? How's that all working? So, I mean, I could go on and on and on about that stuff, but those pages do a really good job of answering that. You're always like an A ticket away or a community forum post away from, figuring out all those data flows. I'll even give you a speed run a little bit, I guess. When you're trying to dip your toes into AI stuff with AA, it's good if you, crawl before you can walk, before you can run, before you can sprint, I guess. I mean, if you're going to try to do Gen 2 versus Gen 3, I would pretty much just recommend, start with documented automation, invoices, try to strive for, low complexity, high value. If you're trying to evolve from that and you've got some maturity, I would probably say stay into Gen 2 space and then just add another layer of complexity on top of it. Maybe you start, adding unstructured text extraction from emails to supplement, attacking attachments or things like that. If you're gonna, take it up a notch, go to Gen 3, again, like try to strive for like low complexity, high value. Summarization, can be simple to execute on, but you can still get a lot of really good value from it. Even if the summarization isn't accurate, if you have human in the loop, just knowing the source of the data, where someone can go, super high value. So, I mean, knowing things like how API tasks work under the hood and, what happens when you use document automation, if it's OCR versus like the parser, like document automation is stateless. Like if you tell someone document automation in the out of the box configuration, when you select like OpenAI or Anthropic, that it's stateless, like that solves a lot of people's problems from a security perspective. Like your stuff isn't going up to the cloud. It's not training anything. You still have control, you have governance. Yeah, I mean, I could talk on and on and on about that stuff, but yeah, understanding data flow and being able to communicate that to people in security will put them at ease, more likely than not. And like, if you need help communicating that, if you have a technical account manager or a customer success manager, definitely lean on them. If you need help communicating that, maybe open up a ticket. Like, yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I think part of this comes back to your organization's governance and risk management stance, right? Do you have an internal AI governance council that's helping to answer a lot of these questions broadly for the organization? Because most likely your automation program is not the only one looking to start to adopt AI. And so if you don't have one, maybe you could suggest that a governance council might be a good thing for the organization to set up, and make sure that the automation program has a seat at that table and is part of that council. So I think that would be one good approach. And that way you're answering a lot of these questions up front one time, and you can continue to use those answers to drive your other solutions. So I think that would be a wise thing to look into. I want to take a question from Nathan Alvarez, who says, for AI-driven automation POCs, how do you handle situations where data availability or quality is a limiting factor without compromising the outcomes of the POC? Philip, let's start with you on this one.
Yes, so I'll acknowledge this is a real problem because the system has to learn before it can produce the output that you need. And this is where that human in the loop. So I think in order to start a POC, you have to say that eventually what is taking you 10 hours will take you 2 hours. But until we get there, you may have to spend your current 10 hours plus maybe an extra hour because you have to train the model and somebody else may have to review what's being trained so that you don't get false data in. But that investment is totally worth it because at the end of this process, you will bring down your effort, right? That is it's a reality that you have to convey. It requires broad participation. So if you are implementing something, it looks like if you're a developer, you have to participate in it. The end user who's going to benefit from this has to also take time off from their day to participate in training this model. Like there is no way around it. I think the mistake a lot of us make is we'll say AI will do it. You can sit back and relax. Eventually, maybe, but that's only after you train your model.
I'm gonna go through some of these other questions really quickly and give some other people the chance to answer this because we're gonna kind of rapid fire in our last few minutes here. Mark, what can automation COE leaders do to put themselves in the position to lead agentic process automation initiatives? I know for a lot of customers, so many other stakeholders have their hand up and want to lead delivery. So if I'm an automation leader, how do I say I'm the guy or girl or person that should be leading this agentic process automation initiative at my organization? And what do I need to develop as a leader from a program perspective to be ready to handle that?
These are great questions. I think that I guess the fundamental there to me, at least the word that pops into my head is credibility. You need some kind of credibility that you know what you're talking about. So and all of us have probably been there. There was a day that we didn't know much about AI or generative AI. We could probably all relate to that. So I think I if you haven't already, I'd go on a little bit of a journey to kind of like Stephen was talking about before. Ingest everything you can. Communities like the Pathfinder community, sessions like this, all these kind of things are great ways to absorb information from different people, and understand it in terms of the value, right? Why are we all excited about this? We're not just excited about it because this is cool technology. We're excited because of the outcomes. So understand what those look like specifically. You know, these are some of the different use cases or some different ways it's being used, and here are the problems it's now able to solve that we couldn't the same way before, right? Kind of what the value proposition is. I would understand that, and then I think you gradually will, again, it's back to that word of trust or credibility. You'll gradually build up that profile of this person, knows automation, but they also understand AI and specifically how these, the marriage between the two. And then I think you're well positioned for it. I guess that's my 2 cents.
Awesome. Stephen, this next one's for you. What has been your biggest roadblock in scaling automation across your organization, and what are you doing about it?
The organization, the higher the potential value, but the harder it is to get buy-in. So, worked for a super big company, but yeah, I mean, it's really just hammering home like promotion and engagement initiatives through all avenues. If you've got Teams channels, Yammers, if there's potential to do a road show, targeted email campaigns, maybe like a company conference day that's on site. You can do things that are different for physical versus virtual. There's a million different things you can do.
Okay. Last question. I'm going to ask all three of our panelists to chime in on this. What is one tip that you have for the automation leader who is just starting to dip their toe into AI? What's one tip that you have for them to find success in 2025? Mark Goodare, I'm going to start with you.
Go check out 10 demos of agentic automation. Watch 10 and get your notebook out. So just absorb real life situations where it's being used.
Excellent. Stephen, what's your tip?
Super lame because it's something I've already said before, but I think it's like the most important thing to get off the ground. Understand data flow.
Okay. That's a good one. Philip, what about yourself?
I'm going to be biased based on my background. I would say if you want to start with something, start with document automation. It's been around long before the word AI has been there. I can personally attest to that. I've seen it for 15 plus years. We've had learning capabilities for a very long time. It works. I know customers that use it, scale it, and there was one time when we had to do a demo, and this is going to tangent a bit. It worked so well that we couldn't do the demo. It just processed everything. We wanted to show how the automation can pick most of your fields, but we practiced it so much that it did everything and there was nothing to show. So that demo wasn't successful, but the solution was very successful. And this is going back 10 plus years. So that is something that works, and that's a great place to start.
Great. Well, thank you so much to our panelists for answering all the rapid fire questions that we threw at everyone. Thank you to our audience for joining and asking questions and staying engaged. It was great to have everyone. This Pathfinder Summit has been, I think, a great event for people to learn from each other other. It's community to community. So I sincerely appreciate all of your participation. Thanks everyone for joining us. Make sure to check out some of the other sessions for Pathfinder Summit, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks.
Thanks.